Hi, welcome to Avi's Kosher Kitchen. It's me, Avi, and before we get to all of these ingredients that you see sitting here, I'm going to say L'chaim as always. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagefen. Wonderful wine. This is a nice Chardonnay from our friends over at kosherwine.com. This is from Twin Sons, a nice California vintage, and we'll be using this a little bit in the recipe as well, so you're going to see a little bit more of that. Now, recipe, you said, what are we making? Well, I'm going to tell you, we are making a turkey stir-fry, Oriental style, which I guess is kind of a given if it's stir-fry. So I have got some wonderful turkey. This is turkey breast fillets. This is from our friends over at Whole Foods, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So I'm going to put this aside because we're not starting with the turkey. So I'm just going to put this right over here. Take out my burner, put it on a low. Got a nice little saucepan we're going to put right here. Okay, now we are making a little marinade sauce, a little marinade, however you want to pronounce it. I've got some, you could either use soy sauce, or I'm using a little tamari because it's nice and gluten-free, so the whole recipe will be gluten-free. We're just going to put all of this in here. It's about a half a cup or so. That goes right in there. Now, to this tamari, we're just going to get a little bit warm. I'm going to sweeten it up here, a little bit of pure maple syrup. Not all of this, that would be crazy, but just about so much. Little, that's very sweet. You want to use pure maple syrup in this, by the way. The fake artificial stuff with all the corn syrup and stuff like that, don't put that into your body, please. Get the good stuff. It really, really helps. Now, to this, we've got our tamari soy. We've got our little maple syrup. I have some sake. Okay, so I'm going to add a little sake to this. Sake to me. There it is. Beautiful, nice sake. And to this, we're not done. I'm going to put in just a tinge of salt. Remember that if you're using soy especially, it's very salty, so you don't need that much. I have got here a little bit of fresh ginger that I've already peeled. We're going to take this, we're going to just grate some ginger right into this. Okay, we want to get it nice and gingery. We're going to just start off with a little bit of ginger. I'm going to reserve this for a little bit later. I think I might need some more. Okay, now to this, the reason why I wanted to get a little hot is just to bring the flavors out, let them develop. Now I am going to add in some toasted sesame oil. I've got some beautiful organic, of course non-GMO if it's organic, toasted sesame oil from our friends over at De La Rosa. De La Rosa has great oils and all sorts of great stuff like that. This happens to be, this is my open bottle. You can see that I opened this recently, and oh, it's good. We're going to add a little bit of this toasted sesame oil, just to about a tablespoon. Give it a little sesame flavor. Let that develop just a little bit. That's all we need to do to that. Now, what I'm going to do though is take this. This is my turkey. I took some, started out, of course, like this. Right, the nice turkey breast fillets again from Whole Foods. I took them and I cubed them up and put them in just a little tray. I'm going to take not all of this, but just a bit of this right on top. Okay. Ideally, you want to let this sit in the refrigerator 15 minutes, half hour, even a little bit longer. You can let it sit overnight if you want to. Okay, we're going to put that aside. But I want to let that marinate. Now, we're going to start with our stir-fry base. I have here my burner. Burner goes back on. I've got a large pan. That goes on top. Okay, we don't want super high heat here. You want to keep the heat down to about a medium low, something like that. Now, what we're going to do is add in some sesame oil. I love this sesame oil, okay? That goes in here. Wow. We're going to finish that bowl. We're going to have to open up the other one. Got a little bit of that sesame oil, just going to coat the bottom of the pan. Okay, and now into that, we're going to start with a little bit of onions. Okay, now I've got, we're not going to use a lot, you see a lot of ingredients here, but not a lot of each. This is kind of a melange, you know, a stir fry. I was over at my local Oriental market this morning picking up some of the ingredients, and I was talking to one of the guys at the counter. We were talking about stir fry, and he says to me, he says, you know, it's like an American stew, but Oriental style. In other words, an American stew, you're going to take all sorts of stuff and put it in, you know, potatoes and carrots and beef and all these different things. So whatever you got, that makes the stew. Well, this is sort of the Oriental version, although which I prefer personally. I don't really like the traditional stews. So we're going to put a little bit of onion into that. Now, I've got the rest of this onion. I want to show you how I cut it, okay? Let me just slide this aside so you can see better. Just cutting it in here, okay? Just making very thin little slices of this, okay? We're wanting to have a little bit of a different kind of texture to the onion than the traditional diced and so on, okay? We'll take all these onions, put them in. Let that get going, okay? You don't want to burn that sesame oil, okay? So that's why you want to keep your heat a little bit low, okay? So we're gonna get those onions going. Now, to the onions, what I have here, I have some peppers, yellow and red peppers, okay? I have just sort of sliced them real thin. Some may call it a julienne, okay? That goes in. I remember Julianne. She was well, never mind. Anyway, that goes in. Now, I've got some carrots. You can see the colors develop. Just carrots sliced in nice little rounds. Okay, that goes in. I want to cook all of this at once, so we're going to let it kind of cook down. Now, with this carrot, what else you can do with it is you can take your peeler a little bit after things are done and just peel a little bit into there just for a little bit of a look, and we'll take a look at that later. Okay, so I've got my carrots in there. We're going to let all this kind of get friendly and cook down. You can see it's going to be really colorful, and that's what we want because we're going to do a little bit of eating with our eyes and not just with our mouth. Now, to this, I have some garlic. I got about 6 or 7 cloves of garlic. Just going to put them down here. You don't want to add the garlic right at the beginning because garlic can have a tendency to burn, and we don't want to do that. So we're just going to give the garlic cloves here just a little bit of a chop. Nothing big. I don't want to see big whole cloves of garlic in there, but I also don't want to see these too small, okay, because it's going to be cooking for a while and I want to give it a chance to really release all of its flavor nice and slowly, okay? So we're going to take these, they go in there. Be careful you don't do what I did, just hit the pan and everything goes all over the place, but I told you 6 or 7 cloves, I ended up with about 6 in there, so that's good. The garlic goes in to keep things moving a little bit. Okay, a little spare thing of garlic. Don't ever let garlic go to waste, that's what I say. A little spare one got in there. Okay, now, to this, I have some mushrooms. These are shiitake mushrooms, right? Holy shiitake mushrooms right here. Now what I have done with the mushrooms is I've just sort of removed the stems and just sliced the caps nice and in strips, basically. The smaller mushrooms like this one or this one, I've just kind of left whole, and they'll go in there and it'll give a little bit different texture as well. So that goes in. Those mushrooms. Now those mushrooms are going to give off a little bit of water. Okay, and that's cool. That's cool. You want that, so it's going to help keep things from really burning. Now, I'm going to show you what I just explained to you before. Just cut the stem off, discarded that, and just took the cap and sliced just like that, and it goes in there nicely. Put these to for something a little bit later, okay? There we go. Now, what I want to do here is I've got a little bit of salt. You notice that a lot of times when we're doing things, I've got a whole array of different spices out there, you know, turmeric and garlic and cinnamon and things like that. We're very simple. We want the actual flavors of all of the food itself is what's really going to season this up. Just a little bit of salt on here, just from a pie, help bring out the flavor and so on. It also helps to release some of that water in the mushrooms. And a little bit of granulated garlic. The only 2 real kind of dry spices I've got is that. A little granulated garlic also, just to give it a little something. By the way, I added just a little bit of salt and granulated garlic to the cubed turkey earlier, just again to just help let it set a little bit. And sometimes, you know, these turkeys from Whole Foods, by the way, you know, these are not just free range, these are pastured. Okay, big difference, by the way. Don't get fooled on this free range stuff where they, you know, yeah, they have access if they want. Pasture means they're actually out on the pasture. Okay, they're out there in little turkey heaven, in the turkey farm, going through their turkey games and all like that, and gobbling and clucking, not clucking, but gobbling around and so on and so forth. And so as such, these are just really natural birds, all fed organic feed and stuff like that. Great stuff from Whole Foods. And so I add a little bit of granulated garlic to it as well. Now you can see this is really starting to develop. And if you can smell it, wow. The aromas coming off of just the vegetables. Nothing crazy in it, just these onions and peppers and the carrot, all like that is just absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now, we're not gonna have to cook this all the way crazed. We just wanna get it a little bit soft, which is starting to develop that way now. You'll notice I put this in an order of your harder sort of root vegetables first. The onions, the pepper's not a root vegetable, but onions, peppers, and the carrots first, and then added the mushrooms and so on, because the mushrooms don't quite need as long a time to cook. Now, what I am going to do is add the turkey. We're going to just now be tempting to just throw all of this in, but we don't want to crowd our plate. We don't need to add all the turkey. Okay, you can make 2 batches of this. We're going to just put in this nice turkey for our stir fry, and now as we do that, that's probably pretty good there. We'll reserve this to the side. I'm going to turn my heat up because we want to get that turkey nice and going now. Okay, so it's going to brown up. Now that sauce that we have that marinating in, that's really going to now start to flavor the vegetables. You'll notice that I didn't put a lot of sauce in here to begin with, and the reason I didn't want to put a lot of sauce in to start with is because I want to get that turkey to get crisped up and a little bit of color on it and so on. Okay, but you'll see a lot of reserved sauce in here, which we can use as long as we're going to cook it down and let it get to a boiling point. Okay, because remember, it is does have raw poultry in it, and for safety reasons, we don't want to get crazy on it. That is why over here I reserved some of that sauce in the pan so that if we get into a bind and I need more sauce towards the end, I've got it, no poultry has been in there, and nobody will be harmed in the eating of this dish. Okay, so we're going to kind of mix this around now. We're seeing that the turkey's starting to develop a little bit of color on it. Crank the heat a little bit more, okay? And we're just stir frying it, okay? Stir it around, mix it around, let all those flavors get into each other, and that's what we want to do. So this is going to go probably about 5 minutes or so to get this just cooked in, and then I'm going to show you the next step. So hang in there. It'll be 5 minutes for me and about instantaneously for you, as always. Okay, it hasn't really been quite 5 minutes. It's really been about 2 or 3 minutes, but it's really developing. And I'm going to just put this to the side because I want to show you something. I'm just going to let this keep cooking down. It's going to come over here to the side. Okay, and what I'm going to show you here, wipe up a little. We're going to add our next couple of ingredients. We're going to add some, it's not really an herb, it's a grass. We're doing some grass, man. Lemongrass, that's right. Lemongrass, I've got a little bit of it sliced up here. Smells nice and lemony. We want to get this in here, give it a little bit of a lemon flavor. We're going to take our fresh basil, we're going to do a little chiffonade. Take the leaves, roll them up, and you've got a nice little basil roll. And anybody that went to high school in the 70s like I did should be able to do this blindfolded. And we're going to just cut this like so. I got about 2 or 3 leaves in here. Okay, I'm going to take this. That goes in. Okay, now basil's not really a traditional element to an Oriental stir fry, but for me, I happen to love basil, and I think it makes a really nice complement to it. Let me slide this over here so you can see how it's starting to develop. We're starting to get some nice browning going on, which is what we want. Okay, we've got our, look at that, nice. All of our ingredients going. Now what I'm going to do here to this, is going to add a little bit of green onion. Some call them scallions. Okay, that goes in. Okay, and by the way, if there's anything you don't like that I'm doing, in other words, you don't like scallions, don't use them. Not a big deal. You know, you don't want carrots in there, don't. Hey, and if you want to kick it up a little bit, add a little bit of hot pepper to it, you know, a little bit of cayenne or a little bit of chipotle or something like that. Be my guest. My kids are going to be eating this a little bit later, so I'm not going to get crazy on the pepper because they'll be up all night, and so will I, and I don't want that to happen. Okay, so we got that going. I'm going to lower the heat back down now. Okay, now that we've got a little bit of brown on the turkey, I'm going to take some more of this sauce and just right in there, all of that. Okay, heat down, and now time to add the next bit. I have got some baby bok choy. Now, you saw me add the basil. I've got the bok choy. One thing you need to be aware of you don't have to be aware of it, but if you're going to cook kosher, you need to be aware of it, is that all of our leafy green vegetables or herbs or whatever, like basil and like bok choy, they all have to be checked for bug infestation, you know? And by the way, if you're not kosher, I highly recommend this because I have found bugs in these and lettuce and stuff like that, and I don't know about you, but I don't want to be eating those things. Okay, we're going to just take this bok choy and just lay it right in. I'm not going to use all of this, just a little bit, just to give it a little bit something else. Now this bok choy is going to cook down a little bit, okay? Oh, this stir fry is coming along. I don't want to put a lot of the bok choy in here. In fact, what we're going to do here is I'm going to add a little bit of wine to it now, okay? Again, talking to my buddy over at the Oriental Market. I didn't even know his name. Real sweet guy though. Add a little bit of white wine. He tells me in his house they always do it, and he's according to him, a very well seasoned, pun intended, Oriental chef who happens to run the Oriental Market. Anyway, again, this nice Twin Sons Chardonnay from our friends at kosherwine.com. That's going in there, and we're going to let this just, I turned my heat off. No wonder nothing was happening. You know, we all make mistakes, and that was one of them. Okay, so now while this cooks down, I'm going to just slide this over here. I want to show you something about lemongrass. Lemongrass comes in a stalk. It kind of looks like this. You know, everybody, you see them lemongrass in like a lemongrass soup or something like that, and you see these beautiful little things. You think it's just growing like grass on your front lawn. They grow in these stalks, almost like feels like a bamboo on the outside. You peel off some of the outer layers, and you have this is sort of the base of it here. Okay, I've cut off that, and we can just see if you slice it right down here, and we slice it again. Careful with your fingers. Do not like to have round, rolly things in my fingers and a knife in the same plane unless it's a stable base. Now, if you peel it off, you can see it's nice and moist, and you could smell that lemon flavor in it. And I'm going to just add these whole, just big like this, right to this. And now I have got one more layer. Okay. My next layer, a little bit of snow peas, okay, again. And now the snow peas, by the way, I have taken, there's a little thread that kind of goes through this, actually goes in the side, and I just take it and you peel it down, just break it off so that when people eat them, you know, that little stringiness doesn't get there. I'm not going to use all of these snow peas in there, just a little bit, okay, and we want to put these in kind of at the end. Snow peas are great to just, you know, eat as they are, raw. Put them in a salad, something like that. So one thing I don't want to do is overcook these. So I'm just kind of putting them in here like this. And again, all this has been washed and rinsed off and so on and so forth. Now, what I'm going to do here next is take the next layer, which is a lot of times in a more traditional stir fry, you use pineapple. I am down here in Florida, so we're going to use mango, nice fruit that I love. We're just going to slice these up and just kind of cube them up like so. and add the mango in there. That's going to give us a little bit of sweetness. So remember, we've got that tamari, we've got the sesame oil, we've got a little bit of the sweetness from the maple syrup. However, this really is going to just set it off and set it up really, really nicely, I think. So we've got just about, we're not going to use all this mango. You don't want to go overboard with any. Remember, it's easy to add, but really tough to take out. You can see what's happening now. We've got all of this coming up beautifully. The bok choy is wilting nicely in there. Oh, this smells so good. I'm really proud of myself on this one. It really smells good. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of stuff because we're right at the end now. A little bit more of these green onions right in there. Okay, I've got some cashews, nice crispy cashews. I want to put the cashews at the end because they have a tendency to get soggy. So I'm going to put a couple in there now. I'm not going to put all of them. Okay, and I'm going to just let that go. And I think we're pretty much done with this dish that quick. Remember I mentioned to you we could take a little bit of the carrot, shave it up like this so you've got a little bit more orangey look to it, like so. Okay, put that little orange strips. These don't really need to cook up, as you know. Got that, you got a nice melange of color and everything else like that. I'm going to turn the heat off, put this aside. Now, one last thing, a little bit more fresh ginger just on top of it, just to seal in that gingery flavor of it, okay? So there we have it, beautiful Oriental turkey stir fry. I again set this on top of the little bit of jasmine rice, finished the garnishing with a little bit of alfalfa sprouts and some more of the cashews and our lemongrass up there, really, really nice. The smell coming off of here is making me drool inside. I'm just so hungry, I want to eat this right away. So I want to say goodbye. I want to thank our friends over at kosherwine.com for this beautiful Twin Sons Chardonnay, which really is a nice complement to this. And if you're not into the white wine, I'm going to suggest the Chosen Barrel Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon, also from our friends at kosherwine.com. And again, thank our friends over at Whole Foods for this beautiful pastured turkey that's really going to make this dish even more flavorful. No growth hormones, no antibiotics, 100% organically fed. What more can I say? It's probably the healthiest meat in America and the tastiest turkey I've ever had the pleasure of tasting. So until next time, be sure to like my Facebook page, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and keep watching. So, l'chaim.